Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to welcome one of the great inventors of our day, John Searl. He has created new energy technology. He is the founder of the Searl Effect Generator and the Searl Generator technology. He has been on a long mission bringing this to the world, has had many, many interruptions, has had his work stifled and thwarted. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie, The John Searl Story. You should buy the DVD and watch it. He has the answer to our energy crisis, to technology, to transportation, to a whole new paradigm of thinking. And what is needed to complement someone like John Searl is the attendant paradigm, structure, and thinking around finance. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one of the great inventors and pioneers of our time, John Searl. Welcome to It's Rainmaking Time, John.
Hi, thank you. It's a pleasure to be talking to you.
It's a great honor for me to have you on the show. I guess the first thing I want to share with the audience is that I'm going to be speaking a little bit slower, a little bit louder than I normally do, because John has difficulty hearing and hears through vibration rather than actual sound. I just want to warn the listeners that it's going to be a little bit different, but please stay tuned. This is one of the most important men in history. All right, John. The first thing that struck me about your work is that you're maybe a century ahead of where the rest of the, quote, experts are. You're 100 years ahead of everybody.
That is the unfortunate part of my work.
I commend you for being able to stay the course while the so-called experts resist what is obvious. Talk about your Searl Effect Generator. What is it?
Well, first of all, it's a linear motor which operates on a magnetic bearing. Today, linear motors and magnetic bearings are popular things. A lot of companies use them. In my time, when I started the work, it was unbelievable. Nobody heard of it, and you was insane. That was the problem. But it is a converter because it draws in any energy form around itself, and it compresses it into a uniform motion and then puts it out as electrical energy. So you can use it anywhere you wish because you do not have to burn fuel to get energy.
What is the most exciting part of your body of work in all these years since 1946? What is the most exciting thing about your discoveries from your point of view?
The fact that it lifted up in the air was a surprise, not intended. But since then, because we have learned an immense amount of information, that here was a technology that fitted nature absolutely perfect. You were actually using nature to your advantage against fighting it as we do in all the other generation forms except solar cells and wind power and sea power. This was the only generator of its kind that actually cooled while it's in use, when it's actually passing current through the system. It actually cools and don't heat up. That is perhaps one of the most interesting parts of the technology.
What I've noticed in my lifetime, and I'm 51 years old, is that the inventors and the pioneers that are ahead of their time are having to wait on dead paradigms that have outlived their usefulness and their utility, and basically have to preserve and hold on to their discoveries so that they don't get into the wrong hands. Is that what's happening with you?
Yes, that's a true picture. My work is the extension of many other inventors ahead in the past who have faced the same problems as I do with these so-called expert idiots who try to impress the world they know everything. in direct results, they really know nothing.
Why do you think it is, John, that when people don't understand something in a particular field, they want to kill what they don't understand?
Yes. Well, there's two ways as I see this. A, once they realize the value, they want to own it. And they go to any lengths to do just that. They have no care in the world about who suffers and who goes without, as long as they own it. The other lot are people who have an image, and this work will tarnish it. And that's the last thing they want. It's my work to tarnish theirs, and therefore they'll do anything to stop this work.
I did an interview many months ago with a gentleman named Gavin Menzies. He's the author of two books, 1421 and 1434, and he lives in London. And what he's found through doing research and having thousands of people helping with research into history was that the Chinese were in America thousands of years. Columbus did not discover America. He had a map with him. And then I did a show with him and another climatologist on peer review and how what happens in academia is the peer review people often try to keep the same paradigm, the same information, the same thought forms about a subject. And if somebody comes along and has a totally different paradigm that doesn't fit with the peer reviewers, they don't get through. Their works don't get published. They can't get through the process. And it reminds me of this. Here you have something for energy for humanity and the planet forever.
That's it. But of course, the way I plan for my investigation, the people always come up to me and say, why do I want an SUG? I have electric power. I don't see any value of buying an SUG. Of course, there is a big value. There's a big difference between the SUG and your power line energy. Your power line energy is producing a positive state in your home. The SUG produces a negative state in your home. There's a big difference in effects. The effects is that positive condition in the room rise dust. And dust is a transport system to bacteria and viruses, which go straight up your nose. And when there's enough, you go down. And the negative is the opposite. It causes dust to drop to the ground. Therefore, any bugs, any bacteria, any viruses are there on the floor, and a vacuum cleaner can deal with them. They don't go up your nose and then cause you to have to fall. You're not well.
What are the applications for your technology? Share with us the applications that the listener can get their arms around.
If we take you home, the wife is cooking things, she opens the lid, she gets scolded. Now, that is painful effects, I know from experience. The SEG emits a mass of negative ions, and this hits the tissue that's damaged. It cools it, and the pain dies, and it assists the healing very quick. And soon that redness disappears. That, for the housewife, would be a blessing. Not only all the clean rooms she's got, easy to vacuum, but it is advantage that on a very hot day, the room is somewhat cooler, a degree or 2 degrees lower, depending on the sort of load she's using. And therefore, in the house, it has a great advantage. Healing is speeded up. That's one of the greatest things in the house you can have. Now, we look at the motor car. However, how many times in the winter you go to turn on and the engine just won't start up because the spark plugs are iced up.